Does this sound familiar? You've been told to spend hours and hours editing and promoting your podcast, only to see minimal growth and barely any engagement. The pain of investing so much time without seeing the desired results is disheartening and leads to pod fade, which we're here to fix at the Cure for Pod Fade. But what if there was a more effective way to enhance your podcast experience? Well, enter AI and our guest today, Manju. We are talking about this game-changing technology and how it can revolutionize your approach, streamline your tasks, give you back time, and really allow you to unleash that tsunami inside that's behind your podcast, because we know your message is too big to be a ripple. Here's the thing. I've been using AI for a long time, and this conversation blew my mind. I had no idea the extra effort, which was no effort at all, but the extra tools and tasks that I could use to really streamline this process. I thought I was doing great, which, mind you, if you are a bootstrapping podcaster, just like I was, and you can't afford that VA yet, you gotta go check out Capsho. Down in the show notes, I'll put it all, how to get a hold of them, get your free trial. But here's the thing, is AI has helped me build my business, but not in the way that Manju shared with us today. So you better bet your booty I will be using his tips to even make this more streamlined, give me more time, boost my show, and get it out in the world where it belongs. So without further ado, let's get into it. Welcome to the Cure for Pod Fade. I am so excited you found your way here, because that means you know how powerful podcasting can be. You are ready to build a legacy with your unique story, your message, and your offer, but you're getting a little overwhelmed. You're feeling frustrated, you're feeling stuck. You just don't know how to grow your show, find a new audience, and make some money. Podcasting can be the ticket to the life of your dreams, and it doesn't have to be as hard as you think. We're talking about all the ingredients it takes to be a successful, profitable podcaster without that icky overwhelm, because you are too magical to join the 85% plus club that pod fades away. I'm your host, Jen Dragonette, so let's make podcasting easy peasy lemon squeezy. Okay, but first, you heard me talk about Capsho. And seriously, it's been a game changer for me. It's how I'm able to edit, hold your breath, 27 episodes a week. I use this wonderful, beautiful software, and it helps me with all of my copy. And it just keeps getting better. It's not just your typical AI like ChatGPT or Bard or some of the other podcast specific copy generators out there. It's a whole new level. There's a community behind it, and we're all part of the Capchovian community. They do challenges, they boost, they make sure you are actually seeing their content, that you're using their content in a way, and it's a full support for your business, not just AI. So you're getting coaching and this wonderful copywriter, and they're putting the human back in AI copy. And it's magical. It just keeps getting better. They've just released some new things on their content that's now helping you create short form videos and all these other things. But if you want to check it out, the link is in the show notes, and it's magical. And if you purchase through my link, I will give you a free 1-hour podcast strategy session with me, where I can teach you how to use this to save yourself possibly up to 2 to 3 hours a week by using AI. So let's get into this episode, because outside of just the copy, Manju really is about to show you how to make AI your best friend. Welcome to the Cure for Pod Fade, Manuj. I'm excited about this conversation because I think that your area of expertise can really be a huge part of the cure for why podcasters give up. So welcome.
Mm-hmm. Thank you so much. Thank you. Excited to be here.
I'm excited too. You have a top 0.5. Yes, that's 0.5% podcast And it's called Bootstrapping Your Dream Show, which we're all here. Most of us are independent podcasters. And you've blended this beautiful like piece of AI. So I want to talk about AI because that's your wheelhouse is AI. And I know it's such a buzzword right now, but how has AI kind of helped your podcast?
You know, see, let's break it down a little bit what podcasting is all about. See, podcasting is all about expressing our opinions, sharing our knowledge, sharing our network with our audience and giving them insights that they may not actually get it from anywhere else. So, of course, there are tons and tons of resources for learning for people who want to learn. So, there is YouTube, there are books, there are all kinds of things, right? But podcasting is a very fun and convenient way to get the insight from the horse's mouth, as they say. It's a like I can write a book, but that will be a passive way to get my story. But if somebody listens to me, that's a much more direct connection, right? Now, the key is, as humans, we have not been taught how to communicate effectively, right? We have been taught maths and science and geography, but we have never been given a manual on how to treat other human beings, how to talk to them. And now AI is at a point where you don't need to be a great communicator. You need to just be able to share a little bit of what you want to do, and AI will help you, do the rest. So, what does that mean? So, let's say you want to launch a podcast, or you already have a podcast. There are so many things, so many steps that go into creating a podcast. What is your name? What is the name of your podcast? What is the description of your podcast? Who do you want to target? What kind of guests you want? Do you want a solo podcast or a get interview type of a podcast? All these things, people get stuck just thinking about all this complexity. But if you use AI and you say, okay, I'm a 30-year-old person. I've been in the food industry and I live in this suburb of New York, and I want to start a podcast about my experiences. Please give me some ideas about the title, about the description, about the target audience, and AI will produce all of that for you. So now all you have to do is not take everything that AI is giving you at face value. Start working with it. Start asking questions. Start asking, okay, this doesn't sound right. So can you help me refine this? Okay, be a devil's advocate. Maybe this audience is too small. I want a bigger audience. What kind of questions should I ask from my guests? Where can I find these guests? How do I approach them? What kind of pitch should I give? Because when you start a new podcast, it's kind of a challenge to get your first guest itself. So all of these things, we get bogged down with all these details, and it's not easy to deal with all this, this additional stress. But now you have a super intelligent AI at your fingertips who can help you with all these steps. So, by any stretch of imagination, I will say 70% of the work can be offloaded. 70% of more work can be offloaded to AI if you want to launch and run a successful podcast.
Oh my goodness, mic drop right there. 70%. Okay. So my mind is already going a million directions because I'm like, okay, I thought I was using AI to its fullest potential for podcasters, but I never thought about using it for like pitching, coming up with guests. Like there is such a vast range that we can use AI for. So I want to know because I saw like over 300, I think it's like 350 episodes into your podcast. That means you have beat many pieces of pod fade. How have you used AI in your show specifically, whether it's for guesting or maybe let's take it a different direction and say like, on those days when it gets hard, how have you offloaded some of that 70% to AI? So, I mean, top 0.05%. If you guys didn't catch that in the beginning, that is above 1% in the world. So there's a secret. And 70%, I'm like, I'm all ears.
Yes. You see, the key is, if people want to go rise to the top, they should associate with people at the top. So what do I mean? What When I started the podcast, obviously, nobody knew me in the podcasting world. I had a lot of credibility in the technology world, but the technology world is small, as in, like, it's a totally different world out there, and engineers are not generally associated with creative work like podcasting and things like that. So initially it was, okay, just trying to figure out who your audience is, what do they want to listen, like, first 20 episodes just is that, right? So after that, you start to collect data, and data is the main ingredient that goes into AI or any other analysis. So once you have that data, you can say, okay, oh, most of the listeners that are paying attention to me are entrepreneurs, are professionals, and they are looking for strategies to grow their business or their life. Okay, now I know who I am talking to. Now I want to go and talk to the topmost people who my audience idolizes, right? So the top executives in the top companies, the top entrepreneurs, right? Now the question is, okay, where do we find these people? How do I approach them? And this is where AI can really help. That was the first step. What is the pitch to them? Because what typically people do is, when they want to connect with somebody, they will write a script, they will write a template, and then just copy and paste and shoot all those messages to thousands of people. Hey, I launched a podcast, so exciting, please come join me, blah blah blah. So that will work for very few people, okay, because it's not personalized. It is not like, it doesn't really talk about why the other person you're trying to approach should give you their time, which is, by the way, if people don't realize, more than anything else in the world, time is the most precious commodity, and you're asking somebody to give you their time. So it is incumbent on you to actually find out a little bit about your guest, and that takes a lot of time and energy. And then once you know a little bit about your guest, how to invite them, how to pitch them, how to build that relationship, because they may say, oh, I'm busy, approach me in 30 days or 60 days. And then you have to remind yourself that, hey, there's a potential person who wants to talk to you in 30 days. And all these things are not easy, but with automation, with technology, with AI, you can minimize that work. So, literally, I can go to somebody's LinkedIn profile, take 5 minutes to scan what they're into, and then use AI to draft a personalized pitch and say, hey, I noticed your post on LinkedIn about your family, or your basketball game, or congratulations on the big deal you have signed up. I would love to know how you went about closing that deal, and share that story on my podcast. How do you like that? And then when they see that, okay, you have done the research, you are genuine, you have talked to some other people of substance, that's when the magic starts to happen. And then when you start to see, oh, I used to send 100 pitches and used to get 5 responses, but now I'm getting 35 responses with AI. Now you can see how 70% of your work is coming down, right?
Okay, first I got to pick my jaw up off the floor because I'm like, all right, you just saved me hours and hours of work for myself and my clients. Because again, you're talking about a piece of this that I never thought to use, was that crafting that pitch. And
Yes.
it's just, my mind is like, oh my goodness, like I wish I would have done that before this interview. Because not that I pitched, like the whole pitch back and forth, but just even for the setup for the interview. So is a lot of the AI that we're putting this information into looking and searching the internet for this based off of, so I'm a complete, like, I'm not a novice, but I'm a novice. Like, we got to dumb it down a little for me. So I
Sure,
use
sure,
two
sure.
different softwares in my podcasting. One reads my transcript and just creates something based on my transcript. And then sometimes I'll use something like ChatGPT or Bard. So when we're doing this, and you may even have a better solution because you are in this industry that, like, we need to know all the things. What is the best that can kind of take this world of our words, and is AI searching the internet to help us with these pitches to kind of like produce them? Because
See,
now my mind is like, think,
yeah.
think, think.
So what I suggest people do is imagine Bard or Chat GPT as a super intelligent human being who has a PhD in marketing, who has a PhD in sales, has a PhD in communication, in history, anthropology, all of these things, right? So imagine coming across such a person who is super nice to answer any of your questions, never takes a day off, available 24/7. Now, what is your responsibility is to ask better questions from this super intelligent human being. So, let's say you want to craft a pitch. What you will say is, hey, I want you to behave like a marketing specialist who is trying to reach out to a prominent personality. And this is what they have said on their LinkedIn profile. So use this information that is publicly available about my guest, and based on that, draft a short pitch inviting them to my podcast. And by the way, make it focused on what they will get out of appearing on my podcast. Make it focused on them, not me. And and just, if you just literally take what I just said, transcribe it, put it in Chat GPT, and add that paragraph what you found about them on LinkedIn, it will give you a very, very, how can I say it, it's a very compelling pitch that you can now start to, send it to your guest. And you'll see how effective this is, because everybody wants to, humans have this tendency to immediately go, if to go within a conversation, what is in it for me. So if you address that right in the pitch, your response rates are going to go through the roof.
Oh my goodness. Like, I'm over here. I'm like, okay, I get all of this. But I have to know, because like you're dropping all this wonderful knowledge. Like, what got you into AI? I'm gonna drop, there was an episode I heard that I'm gonna put in the show notes about like your story, because your story from, like your childhood and up is absolutely amazing. But let's just skip ahead to like when you started going into like, okay, what teetered into now I'm going to go into AI, because you have this vast knowledge of AI, and the story is great, guys. You'll want to listen to the episode I'm going to drop in the show notes. But I want to know, when did you realize AI was such a superpower?
The thing is that when you are passionate about something, you always are looking to learn more and grow more. So even in this example, let's say, you are an experienced podcaster, but you want to learn more about it. And not only you want to learn more about it yourselves, but you are so passionate you want to share it with other podcasters, right? So that is the drive that pulls us towards our passion. So in technology, every few years there's a new cycle, groundbreaking technology that is introduced. So, starting from the internet, then came the devices that we used to carry around, like SMS or email, and then came the smartphone, and then came artificial intelligence, then blockchain. So, as a passionate technologist, I always try to look at the new technology and see what can be done with this. It's like getting a new toy, and when you get a new toy, you want to break it apart, you want to put it together, you want to play with it. So that has been the driving force in my company and myself, to always seek out new technology. Sort of, we say let's get in trouble and see what we can do with it, right? Like put yourself in an uncomfortable position, learn something, and see what's the worst that can happen. And generally it actually works out really well, because now you learn something new, you are able to create more impact, you are able to think of new creative ways to solve problems. So that is what led me to AI, that is what led me to all other technologies that we use, and then using technology to make direct impact on human life. So we have done a lot of work in education, healthcare, real estate, logistics. All of these things are directly impacting people's lives. So now, what I shared with you on this podcast, maybe somebody will listen to it, start implementing it in their business, and will get benefit from it, right? So that is how you develop this knowledge, you share it well, with the world, you see the impact that it's creating, and then you move on to the next best thing.
Yeah. And that's one of the things that I love about your podcast, because once we connected, I was like, okay, I've got to go check this out. Bootstrapping your dreams. Yes, I'm all in for that, because that's what most of us do in the beginning is we bootstrap. But I love that on your show, it's different areas that have been affected by technology and AI. I was like, there was some that my mind was like, I wouldn't have, like, just like this conversation, I would have never thought of how AI could benefit that specific area, like real estate. Like, okay. But when I listened to the episode, I was like, oh, this makes sense. So I think that it's a really cool point that you made. That's like, you're passionate, so you want to share, you want to learn, you want to absorb. And I think that's one of the things that a lot of podcasters fail to do is they just get so repetitive, then they don't learn the new things that of course they're going to pod fade away.
Exactly.
So with that being said, what do you think is next for this podcasting world with AI?
We are actually entering a very interesting era now, because, as I said, the main shortcoming that people have as humanity is not ideas, it's execution and communication. And execution, a big part of execution is how to break down bigger ideas into smaller steps that we can do. That's one thing. Second thing is, how can we find other people who can complement our skills? Because even the most intelligent people on this planet can only be good at one or two things. Like if you ask Albert Einstein to maybe cook a 5-star meal, I don't know whether he was a great cook, but I'm sure he will struggle with that, right? So the idea is that if we get better at communications, if we are able to break down bigger vision into smaller chunks, then we can execute properly. So a lot of people will start podcasting, a lot of people will start coming out with their voice, because now with AI it helps them to put their thoughts into words, it helps them to find more collaborators. The other thing is, as the number of platforms and podcasts grow, I think the discoverability of podcasts will improve, because right now I don't think we are there yet. We are, just sort of, as listeners of podcasts, we just sort of, stumble upon a podcast, we subscribe to it, listen to a couple of episodes, and then move on sometimes. But with AI, we will be able to hyper personalize the discovery as well. So we will be able to say, okay, today I'm feeling low and I would like to listen to something on mental health. You know, show me an episode about that. So discoverability becomes easier. I believe also, I won't be surprised in the next 1 year or even 2 years, there will be new podcasts that will be completely produced and published by AI. No human interaction needed.
Okay, for those of you that are listening and not watching, my jaw has literally hit the floor. So for a podcast, because it's audio, does this mean that they are like voice creating, like voice command, like auto generating, create like the entire process?
Yes, yes. There are platforms available today where you can upload 3 seconds of your voice, 3 seconds, okay, and it will replicate your voice exactly.
I don't even know what to say to that. I'm like, that opens up a lot of different things. Also, my mind is like, this is great and this is a little bit scary all at the same time. So that's one of the things, like, I'm really excited about it. But with this being able to, now we're competing with AI. What do you think that's going to look like for the person that is still recording? Can we compete with AI? Because they're ultra smart and we are not so much.
See, we humans have a tendency to look at the world as a zero sum game, meaning we humans have been taught if you win, somebody else has to lose. Okay, but it is not actually a zero sum game. AI is not here to compete with us. AI is here to collaborate with us. So there may be shows that are completely generated by AI. That doesn't mean it replaces human factor. Humans are still in control, because who will listen to your podcast, your voice, are people who resonate with your voice. What does that mean? So today there are animated movies that spend billions of dollars on a budget, and they hire top of the Hollywood actors just to add their voice to it, right? So we watch these animated movies knowing full well these are not real actors, and it is all generated by AI, and some guy or gal is going to record their voice and add it. So there's a separate genre of movies we like, even though it's not 100% made by humans. So the it's just a way to express our thoughts, and there are 8 billion people on this planet. Somebody likes AI generated podcasts, somebody likes human generated podcasts, somebody likes a mix of both. So there is no end to what humans like and prefer. It's just that now we have yet another platform, yet another tool that we can use to express our humanity.
Oh, I love that. And that puts a lot of that fear, at least for me, at ease of like, okay, yes, we do have to look at this, like, I call it like as the numbers game, because not everybody likes me, which is why I bring guests on, right? Because first, I don't know everything. Second, I'm not everyone's cup of tea, thank goodness.
Yeah, exactly, exactly.
So I love that point. And it's so cool to start thinking about, okay, AI's been around for a while. Like, I didn't think of like animated stuff as an AI, which I should have. I went to school for it, back when you actually had to do all the
Yes,
coding and
yes, yes,
everything, like way back when. I'm dating myself,
yes.
but I I love that AI can really be, like, you're talking about this communication piece. And I think you're right. In school, there's a few things, like communication and money is something that I feel like all education really lacks. And I feel like with this new piece of technology that keeps getting better and better, like, we're going to be super powerful too.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. Yeah. We people who embrace technology, they always grow forward. And once your mind has expanded, it never shrinks. So, think about early 90s, like if people were around when the internet was just coming out. At that time, if I went to somebody and asked, hey, do you need a website or do you need an email address, most people will say, no, I have my white pages, I have my yellow pages, I'm good to go, right? Like, I have my landline, no need for anything else. But just 5 years later, if you had applied even to an entry level job and you said, I don't have an email address, there is no way you could make any progress, right? So it's the same thing with every technology, that if you don't adopt it, then you there is nothing that is going to like happen drastically to you, but you will be left behind. But if you embrace it, you understand it, you incorporate it into your work, that puts you at much better advantage as compared to your competitors.
Oh, yes. So I want to know, how have you incorporated your podcast into your company?
Yeah. See, podcasting, again, a lot of people don't realize one thing is when you start a business, a lot of people think that the product or service they are providing is what they are selling. But what I have realized being in business for 30 years, the very first thing you are selling is yourself. Okay. So if people don't buy you, they don't trust you, they don't like you can come up with the next best thing since sliced bread. It's not going to work. But on the contrary, if you can establish trust and people like you and know you can turn around and sell anything, you know. So take, for example, I'll use Elon Musk, for example. The guy is selling rockets, the guy is selling cars, and he's even selling tequila, right? So the idea is that podcasting is a great way to establish your presence, to get people to know where you stand. Just like you said, we don't have to be liked by everyone. There is a saying that you only need 1,000 true fans to live like a king, right? So if you are putting yourself out there, first of all, it's not easy to put yourself out there. People are always scared to be judged, to be like, just face the public opinion, which is not always positive. And so to overcome that and put yourself out there, that takes guts, that takes courage. So the very first thing that it does, it establishes you as a courageous person. And now people who want to do business with you, they will see, oh, this person is a courageous person. They can deliver, they can make things happen. That's the first filter criteria. And now when they listen to you, maybe 80% of them will hate you. But that's really good, because now you don't have to deal with those haters. And you can focus on the 20% of people who will become your true fans, right? They will actually help you spread your message. How powerful is that? And if you can accumulate 1,000 of those fans, you are on your way to becoming a very, very successful person, right? So that's the impact of podcasts, and that's how we incorporate it into our business. It's not a direct selling tool, or we don't say, hey, come buy my stuff. It's more like, okay, get to know us, get to know what we are all about, what we stand for. And if that resonates with you, get in touch with us, connect with me on LinkedIn, tell me what are you trying to do, and then how can we help you. So that's the idea.
Oh, and I think that we forget that sometimes because we get into that grind. We're doing that extra 70% of work that AI could be doing,
Mhm.
and we're not seeing any results and we forget. I feel like we really forget sometimes about the conversations and the connections. Like, I
Mhm.
love doing interviews.
Mhm.
Podcasting saved my life, literally
Mhm.
saved my life. And what you're saying is like that connection. And what you said is so powerful. 1,000 true fans can have you living like a king. I mean, mic drop.
King or queen or princess, like royalty. So yeah.
Yeah. And this conversation is like, my mind is going in so many different directions. I haven't had, I mean, I love my guests. If you're a few past guests, I'm not dissing on you, but my mind is going like in so many different ways because I feel like there's so much more we can do. And again, as your podcast says, bootstrapping your dreams. A lot of us are, smaller entrepreneurs that we can really partner. It's a partnership with AI.
Yes, exactly.
So I want to know a little bit more because we know you have the great podcast, but I want to know a little bit more about the company and like your big mission on this planet right now because again, we don't just bring on people that are doing little things here. We bring on the big boys and the girls that are like, I am making an impact. So I got to know, like, from the podcast, I want to go a little into like your business and how you're supporting people.
Yes. So basically, right now we are at the verge of a huge technological advancement, a huge evolutionary leap in human evolution, and one of the biggest wealth transfers in human history. So, what do I mean by that? The CEO of IBM has said that AI is going to add $10 trillion, that's trillion with a T, to the world economy by 2030. Okay? So let me put it in perspective. Currently, the world economy or the world GDP is $96 trillion. So in the next 7 years, AI is going to add more than 10% of the world GDP. So that's the biggest wealth transfer that is about to happen. But the problem is that there's a lot of misinformation, a lot of fear. A lot of people don't even know what AI is all about. So our mission is to be on the forefront and help people understand what this technology can do for them, their families, their communities, and help basically widespread adoption of this. We've already made a huge impact. Like we have impacted at least 10 million lives with our technology, generated hundreds of millions. But now we are looking at 10 times, 100 times bigger impact that can be made. So that is our goal. My personal mission in life is to use technologies like AI and other related technologies to help 20 people win the Nobel Prize. That is my personal mission in life.
That is so cool. Like, what a cool mission.
Yeah. So yeah, these are the kind of things that we do.
Oh, and what is your company called? Because again, well, we're going to put everything in the show notes, but and everybody's already plugged in your podcast name because now they're really interested. But
Mhm.
what's the company?
It's called Tetra Noodle Technologies.
Tetra Noodle?
Yes, that's right.
Okay, I've got to know, how'd you come up with the name?
So well, I'm not good at these things. I'm not a good marketer, and and when I came up with the name, ChatGPT was not around. So what happened was I used to go to this restaurant chain in Vancouver. It's called Noodle Box, and they serve very tasty, spicy noodles. So one day I was just sitting in the restaurant talking to my friends. Hey, what kind of name can we come up with? And I was frustrated. I was like, I can't think of anything. So then I said, why not? We come here so often. We talk about our businesses here in this restaurant. Why don't we just borrow this name? And they said, yeah, that's a good idea. I was like, really? I was just joking. So they said, no, no, no. Let's work on that. So noodle box, and this in the takeout boxes that they have is the square Chinese sort of takeout box. So I came up with Tetra from that box, and then noodles from the noodles. So
Oh my goodness. I love that. I always love to know like the stories
yeah,
behind
yes,
something because, like this show, Cure for Pod Fade. I don't know. I was walking around. I had just like, I don't know what I was doing. I'd got my blood draw or something, and I was like, oh, what if it was a cure for whatever?
mm,
So that's how this
yes,
came.
yes,
So I love hearing the stories,
yeah,
and
yeah,
I love
absolutely,
noodles. I'm like, yes, sign me up for some spicy noodles. I'm
yeah,
in.
yeah.
So I want to know, if somebody were to walk away with that like one thing, that podcaster that's on that verge of like, I can't do this anymore. This is getting too hard. I'm not passionate about this. Like, what would you want to add for your ingredients into this juicy cure that we're creating for Podfade?
See, the key is that consistency in life is the key, and the growth that we are all looking for is outside our comfort zone boundary. So if you want growth and you are passionate about podcasting, then stay consistent with it, even though it's difficult. Try to make it in a way that you can s- execute but stay consistent. So let's say if you're not able to do one episode a week, maybe you can say, okay, I will do one episode every 2 weeks or every month. or even 3 months, but stay consistent. And whatever your challenges are, let's say, oh, it is too much work or whatever it is, just try to break it down and say, what are the things that you absolutely enjoy doing? Focus on those and then delegate the rest. When I say delegate, AI is a great tool to which you can delegate, as I demonstrated. Or you can find a freelancer, or you can find a friend who can help you with something. But never think to yourself, how do I do this? It's never the how, it's always the who. Because we as humans, as I said, we are not good at everything. But if we can build a team of people around us who can complement our skills, then things happen. So start asking yourself, who can help me do this? Not how can I do this? And then stay consistent on that. And that's basically it. And you're well on your way. And then the other thing is, always collect feedback from your audience, because as somebody who is producing something, if you're just flying blind, you have no idea what people are liking or not liking, then you're not even getting any feedback. But once you start getting feedback, the positive feedback is what will fuel you. Because as human beings, the most exciting thing is when somebody praises your work, when they validate your work. And when you start to get that validation, that is priceless. And your mind starts to, you know, automatically just go towards that. And once you achieve that, it's like a snowball effect. Like you just roll the snowball downhill, and then it starts growing and growing and growing.
Oh, I'm like, both of those are so juicy. And like, I think of the who, and now I'm also like, well, AI is in my who.
Yes.
Thanks to this conversation, I'm like, AI is part of it. And the snowball effect. Yes. I'm like, oh, oh my goodness, my heart. I'm like, I'm so excited because there's so much here. And I really hope that people end up in your space. And, again, bootstrapping your dreams show. Everything will be in the show notes. I'll make sure your website's in the show notes. Everything's in there. But I think that we've hit some really key things here, like communication, consistency, who's in your corner. And if you're bootstrapping, maybe there's so many free AI tools out there right now. Maybe the who is AI, and that's okay.
Yes, absolutely.
Ooh. Well, thank you so much for this amazing conversation. I can't wait to I'll be editing this, and I'm going to take notes during editing, so I know my listeners will be too. But Manuj, I am so grateful for this, and I am so grateful that you're putting out in the world like how AI is like a partnership to us. It's not something to be afraid of, because I've seen a lot of that in the market right now. That's like, AI is going to take over your job. I'm like, no, you still need a human. It's not going to take over. So thank you so much for what you're doing in this world, and how you're showing people that it is that missing piece that we didn't get to learn growing up. So I'm so grateful for you.
Thank you so much. Thanks.